All right, so as you can see, I got my paint window up, so you know things are going down. Um, so today I want to talk to you about what I am labeling sort of maybe subjective attractiveness, but in the realm of racism. So this is something that's an interesting idea, and it's something that I'm not necessarily taking a stance on. Well, I guess I will give my stance at the end, but I want to hear your feedback on this because it's something that is definitely debatable. It is controversial. So the idea that I guess I'll put it out on the table is that when people consider attractiveness, and I have done videos on attractiveness in the past, I'll put a link to it. When people consider what they find attractive in a possible partner, a lot of times race does come into play. And it becomes a question of whether this is a matter uh, of actually being attracted to specific features of a person or being attracted to a race in general. And so obviously it's bad as a society to generalize things. So for this, I'm going to be using the most arbitrary thing I can think of possible, and I'm going to be talking about shapes. Because everyone knows we're not talking about this or this. We're talking about this. So, in this metaphor, I will be talking about this. And so I am theoretically attracted to this circular shape. Now, this is not to say that that the other shapes are problematic. Um, just because this shape is a square and just because this shape is a triangle doesn't mean that they are not attractive shapes. Perhaps I personally am not attracted to corners, but there are many things that the other shapes are good are known for, are good at doing. Triangles are very strong shapes. They tend to be relatively stable in terms of structures. Squares are very convenient in terms of building structures because they are the same length on either side. They're very symmetrical, which can be a very attractive feature. Symmetry tends to be very attractive. And so, but this isn't the idea at hand. So the question is the I have to question the reasoning that I have for being attracted to this shape. And so I need to ask that then am I attracted to circles because they are circles? Or am I attracted to circles because of the individual traits that build up a circle? A circle is symmetrical in infinite planes of existence, or sorry, yeah, I guess that's true. Infinitely many planes can be put through the center of a circle, and every single plane will create symmetry. This is not true for squares, although there are many planes of symmetry. There are not infinite. So this is an advantage that circles have in that realm. Um, there's also symmetry in triangles, especially equilateral triangles. But uh, this is this is not enough in my eyes. So perhaps um, I consider circles to be favorable in this category, and also maybe I do not put as much emphasis in terms of my psychological attraction in the realm of corners. Maybe I want smooth surfaces that are not necessarily abrupt changes. So now this is something that is interesting because most people would say that it's somewhat demeaning to pick out specific traits like corners or edges to say that these traits are desirable because then that tends to put down the entire groups of shapes that perhaps do have many edges and many corners. But I think that as an individual, it's not necessarily a choice that you are attracted to an individual feature. And so we have to start thinking about the origins of these attractions. And so perhaps there is a reason that I am attracted to symmetry. Perhaps I was raised in a society that puts symmetry up on a pedestal for claiming that it is the one trait that is necessary. Perhaps in a different society across some sort of arbitrarily shaped body of water, there is another society that would tend to praise corners as the cornerstone of attraction. So I think that there is definitely some subjectivity, there is some individuality to this, because when you look at attraction, you have to think about it on a micro scale. Now, there will always be statistics that can grasp things from a macro scale, because when it comes to things like marketing, when it comes to using demographics, if you want to cater to a certain demographic, then you need to find what the general average for that demographic tends to find attractive. And this is very powerful in terms of a macro scale. But when talking to an individual, you can't act as if that individual and another individual of similar characteristics are attracted to the same thing, because there are many different factors. There's one, genetics. There is two, upraising, and there are many different factors based off of what role models they had, what other shapes they hang out with. So I think in the end, everything comes down to the baseline of nature versus nurture. And this is a common question of psychology, but it is something that is in almost everything we can think of. Whether or not the reasons that we desire something are something that is innate in our person, or if that is something that has been raised into us by the people we are surrounded with. So now I want to raise the question in terms of this, of whether it is wrong to claim that you only like circles. Because perhaps that is simply what you are attracted to in terms of your nature. And so, but it's also hard to determine whether it is your nature that is creating this attraction, or whether this attraction has been built up by the society you live in. And so this goes back to something I was talking about with politics, is that you have to constantly question how you feel and question why you are doing things. If you're doing something for a very long time, then it may seem like you have to continue doing that, but that's never the case. Now, obviously, if something has been working for a long time, there's reason to believe that it will continue to work. But there's also always the possibility that there's a better option out there. So I think that my standpoint on this, and if anyone has input they'd like to add on it, feel free to post that in the chat. But my standpoint on this is that it's okay to claim that you like a particular shape over another shape, as long as that is backed by some reasoning in terms of liking particular features over the other. Because obviously attraction tends to be somewhat selective, and there's a reason for that. There's also natural selection, which tends to show that people who are generally attractive tend to be, I guess, healthier in the eyes of natural selection, but that's not necessarily true in most cases. So it's a little bit of back and forth in that realm. And so this is something that I think is somewhat debatable, and I would love to hear your input on it. I don't have too much more to say on this, but this has been something I've been tossing around for a very long time because it is an interesting concept to see if particular groups of people tend to be more attracted to other groups of people, or in this case, shapes, simply because they are those shapes. And to question whether that's a wrong thing or but at the same time you have to understand that there is always the difference between macro scale and micro scale, and in the micro scale you can never assume that an individual will follow the trend. Humans are the epitome of randomness. So that's the general topic for attractive racism. I don't have too much more I want to talk about on that topic, but if there are any questions or other side notes you want me to further talk upon, please post that in the chat, even if I've moved on to other topics, and I will address them later in the stream. So I'm going to clean things up and move into my second topic, which is the mystery topic. So I will be right back.